Let's get into our first topic then, and we're asking if alcohol prices should be raised across the UK to combat boozing. The minimum price of alcohol in Scotland is reportedly set to rise by 30% from 50p to 65 pence per unit. The charge is expected to take effect from May, 6 years after Scotland became the first part of the UK to introduce minimum alcohol pricing, which Wales is also adopted in 2020. This is what the minimum price for certain tipples in Scotland could be soon. We'll compare that to now the lowest price we found in English supermarkets so that you can see how much more you'd be paying if it became a nationwide policy. So we'll start with Scotch whisky, shall we? Here we go. In England, you're talking nearly £13 for a 700ml bottle. This is 40%, whereas in Scotland it's going to be closer to, or rather over £18. Then vodka, another favourite, 37.5% alcohol in that, and that's a 700ml bottle. In England, there you go, is that right? Got that right. In England, that's going to be about £12. In Scotland, you're going to be paying over 17. That's quite a significant difference. And then we've got wine. So here's just your standard bottle, 12%, 750ml. In England, £4. In Scotland, nearer 6. Now, Public Health Scotland said last year that deaths due to alcohol could have been 13.5% higher without minimum pricing. However, critics have claimed that the policy punishes responsible drinkers while those who are dependent cut back on things like food and heating instead. So is it the right thing to do? Kulveer, I'll start with you.
No, it's not the right thing to do. But look, there's so many reasons. But firstly, I can see those. Remember, you had the booze cruises where people cross the channel to get cheaper booze. Are people going to be coming over from Scotland to England to buy the cheaper booze? Because, you know, we've already got higher taxes in Scotland. Now you've got higher rates of employment tax. Yeah, and now we've got higher alcohol charges. Look, it's not targeted. If we want to help people who have a problem with alcohol, we have to do several things. We have to look at those people who are vulnerable to it. We have to have a better education programme. We have to advise and talk to young people about alcohol, although from what I see, Gen Zers tend to be not drinking as much as previous generations. So it's a blanket approach. It's a sledgehammer to crack a nut. And it just impacts, it puts everyone in together to pay more. And I think actually there's profiteering that happens from it as well. So I can't see this being the right answer. Yasmin?
No, I can't agree with a single word that was said, except for the smuggling or the buying cheap booze. I think that is probably a possibility. You know, you take your car and fill up here. Alcoholism is a very severe issue across the nations of the United Kingdom, and not just here. I think it's one of the things that most destroys relationships, families, health.
Yeah, it's up there with gambling.
Yes. And I think and as Scotland has shown, and I think Wales has the same policy now.
Yeah, it brought it in 2020.
That there is a big difference. I mean, they're talking about vulnerable people. People never think they're vulnerable. And partly they don't, because our culture thinks getting smashed is just the funniest thing in the world. You know?
What this will do, actually, Kulveer, and Yasmin's touched on it here, is it will really target young binge drinkers. We're talking about the people that are pre-drinking before they go out to nightclubs and things, and that's really who this is going to target. So what we could be doing is seeing a decline in new alcoholics and people getting dependent on alcohol now.
Yes, look, I agree with that, but again, why not educate the young more? I never remember hearing anything about alcohol, the challenges, what it does to you, the effects of it when I was at school. You know, why not have a better programme of raising the awareness of the problem and helping young people understand the challenges of alcohol? I don't think by raising the price, because people who are going to drink will drink.
No, they won't.
And especially those who have got a problem with alcohol, they'll find a way, as we said before, they'll stop other things and they'll find the money for alcohol. I don't think by charging everybody more, and the vast majority of people across Britain who drink do not have a problem with alcohol.
Oh, but no, you're wrong about that. This culture has completely a big problem with alcohol. There's no celebration. you know, if you ever go to Freshers' Week, all parties, I mean, talk about middle-class drinking. In the last 3 months, I've been to events where I've seen very posh people, very famous people, getting so sloshed. I couldn't believe it, okay? And actually behaving appallingly.
But Yasmin, this won't stop those very posh, very wealthy.
No, but
not
what
going to be
I'm saying
affected
is that
by
the
the
culture, the education will not change anything, because the culture is all... I mean, I'm having these fights with my English husband all the time, because whenever drink comes up, he has a laugh. He thinks it's funny when people get drunk and fall over. And I said, that's the problem. What you could do, but the pricing will... We've seen it does stop. It does reduce consumption for some people. And that's a good thing to do.
OK, let's go to the calls. Ian from North Ayrshire, do you think this is a good idea?
It's crackers. Whoever thought this up doesn't realise.
Well, the Scottish Government, Ian. And
Right.
they've already brought it in before, about 6 years ago, so you're already experiencing a hike in minimum pricing. Do you think it's made a difference?
No, absolutely not.
Well,
What's going to happen, people who have pubs, clubs, are going to disappear off the planet. Hotels are going to have less people at functions, and the only people who are going to be happy with it are supermarkets and the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Those who have money in this country will pay the extra, and the people who are poor will pay more and eat less.
Well, that's interesting, Ian, and that's certainly what they're saying about the alcohol dependent, is they will make sacrifices elsewhere, which will only hinder their health more. However, you bring up an interesting point, and I suppose when I heard this, I did assume, oh, this is going to hit supermarkets, this is going to hit... But actually, it's going to hit pubs and clubs, sorry. But actually, it's going to do the opposite, because 70%, I think, of alcohol sold in supermarkets is under this 65p a unit threshold, which means they're going to have to lift their prices, and that would make them more comparable with bars and pubs. So you might actually see people binge drinking less at home and actually going out and being more social, which would be a good thing, would it not? Getting more people into pubs rather than drinking at home.
No, because if there's more people going out to pubs and clubs, who's looking after the children at home?
OK, well,
all it means...
I mean, that's just an argument for saying if you have a child, you're not allowed out the house, Ian, which I don't think anyone would agree with.
Well, actually, you brought that up, and nobody would agree with your proposal.
Well, Ian, what's my proposal?
Well, you just said it. You said it about children. You said that parents or people who have children shouldn't go out. I never said that to you.
I think we've got cross wires here, Ian. What I'm trying to say is that pubs may benefit from this, because people will do less binge drinking at home and they will do more drinking socially in a pub, which is where it would be a benefit to society, wouldn't it? We don't want people hiding their drinking at home.
I don't see that. The only benefit of your proposal is that the police will be picking up more people in the pub who are drunk rather than domestic incidents in the house.
OK, Ian, thank you. I didn't think I did a proposal there, but I'm creating proposals left, right and centre. I don't even know it. Ray from West Glamorgan, what's your views on this? Wales already has it.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, the panel. I agree in principle with the concept of trying to assist alcohol-related illnesses, etc. But surely are we not creating now where somebody in Scotland, if it goes up to ridiculous prices, as you've shown on the bottles in front of you, are just going to hire a van, drive 5 miles over the border, fill up a van full of booze on English prices, save hundreds of pounds, drive back? We're creating the booze cruise. Also, if you think about it logically, you have all these companies who sell wine online. I can order a case of wine from England at English prices and have them delivered in Wales. So what's the sort of help that these increases are going to help?
I mean, I am sure all these things will have to be thought through in due course, but you're absolutely right. In the first instance, if Scotland does this and England doesn't, then we are going to have some sort of black market in between the two countries, aren't we?
We haven't had it so far. and Scotland's had higher prices. We
yeah,
haven't
but
had.
not 30%. This is quite a significant increase now. This almost makes that worth it.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've had higher prices in Scotland and 25% more rise in alcohol-related deaths. This is not the right approach to the problem.
Well,
the problem
I mean,
is
that's
binge drinking, cultural issues, and I agree with Yasmin, you know, there's cultural issues, and young people. But we need to have a targeted approach. We need to have better education, better awareness, better approach to alcohol if you want to help society tackle the problem that we're actually trying to do. Not a blanket price increase and then everyone just has to suck it up, or we find these unforeseen circumstances like people will be getting their vans and driving over the border to get cheaper booze.
Unless England decide to do the same. Ray, thank you for bringing that up. Chris from Manchester, what's your thoughts on this? Do you have any experience in this industry?
Well, yeah, I'm a licensee. What I said to your researcher was I'd get rid, although the GP, the gross profit, is ridiculously high for us as a business, I'd get rid of shots like Jaeger bombs and everything else. And I'm not here to advertise, but I can't think of how else I can refer to them. They're ridiculous. People just throw them back, and it's a fast route to getting high.
But hold on, Chris, because a Jaeger bomb is Jägermeister and Red Bull, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Now, that's from working behind a bar, everybody. So how are you going to get rid of that? Are you going to get rid of the Red Bull and the Jägermeister? I mean, do you want to get rid of shots in its entirety?
Well, again, as a licensee, most people drink pints and gin and tonics and glasses of wine and everything else. Yeah, I would. I'd get rid of them. And we're pretty disciplined. I mean, if we think somebody's had too much, we just ask them to leave. Mm-hmm. But they're ridiculous drinks. They're just... I don't see the point of them. And that's probably
not to be social. They're an aim to get drunk. There are certain drinks where you think there's a focus there that's probably in the wrong direction. But that would be more, I suppose, legislation for bars and pubs rather than the pricing of alcohol. So you don't think the price of alcohol has anything to do with this and it won't impact it? Well,
the problem is, Storm, I'm 60 years old. I like to have a pint on a Saturday afternoon, or whenever, watching. We're a semi-pro football club. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're going to start saying to people, it's already the cost of living and everything else is hurting so many people. If you're going to take one of the last reasonable pleasures away from people, what does it say about society? It's just. Well, you're not dumbing down.
You're not taking away. You're just minimising the amount that they'll be able to consume. But as somebody that owns a licence to sell alcohol, I'm actually wondering whether this will impact you positively, Chris, because I know bars and pubs across the country have been really hit hard recently, especially because supermarkets are selling alcohol so low. This would bump up the price of supermarket alcohol, which might see more people coming into your establishment. Yeah,
but the problem is, Storm, again, this is a massive jigsaw. We've had people getting far more used to staying in because of the pandemic. If they can get alcohol cheaper, then they, rather than coming out and socialising again like people used to, it's all just been part of. And I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but it's all been part of the major shift in societal behaviour. Okay. But trust me, it doesn't help people like us. OK, so you don't think this will help pubs and clubs?
Can I just say, this whole idea of, people are drinking, it's a pleasure, it's one of the few pleasures we have. Nobody's mentioning the pressure on the National Health Service. The amount it is costing the National Health Service, which is on the brink, let's face it, of almost total collapse in some parts of the country. It isn't just something nice that we're all doing. OK, but our society isn't like some of the Mediterranean countries where they do drink, but they drink, they don't get drunk. That's the culture here. To get drunk, yeah, OK, but getting drunk aside, some people do, and it is a joy to go out and have a nice glass of wine with a roast. Yes, I like that too. To have a glass of wine at home. Well, you can pay a little bit more. OK, well, pay a little bit more for a nice glass of wine. The argument is actually that something like this is going to hit
the moderate drinker the hardest. And Chris, turns out, is going to hit pubs and bars as well. We've got some messages coming in online. I'll just read one of these. Alan on Facebook says, I think it's a good idea. When I was a kid in school in the 60s, we were taught about the dangers of smoking, but not about drinking alcohol, which, Kulveer, you've already brought up. I'm not sure whether children now, or children, they wouldn't be children, they would be adults, children to me, whether young people now just starting their journeys of going out to nightclubs and doing that thing don't know the effects of alcohol. I feel like they probably do, but it's just...
Well, I think every generation has to learn that. It has to be taught. So I wouldn't make any assumption. Although, you know, anecdotally, we've seen the Generation Z, they do seem to be drinking less. They seem to be more into health conscious, you know, aware of some of the challenges. But as Yasmin was highlighting, you know, when you're a student, there's peer pressure, there are these cheaper drinks, there are the shots. I don't want to take, I agree, I don't want to take the fun out of people's lives, and they can have some fun. They could have a Jaeger bomb if they want to, but it's whether they have 5 or 10 that could be a problem. So, and will price be the issue there? No, it's about education, it's about managing it in terms of point of sale. And yes, there is something about supermarket pricing, but again, if we want to target the problem, we really have to look at where the problem is, and we have to help those people who have a problem through education.
OK, let's go back to the phones. Anne from Hertfordshire, what's your thoughts on this? Would you like to see the price of alcohol go up in England?
No, I wouldn't. I just think we need to tackle the problem. Why are people drinking so much?
Because it's cheap and easy.
And I know a friend that does, and he's been having counselling, and the counselling stopped now since COVID because a lot of the counsellors have gone private, so there's no help for people that have got a drug problem.
An alcohol problem.
The source of why they've got the alcohol problem in the first place.
OK, so there's definitely an issue with counselling those with alcohol issues.
Yeah,
but
if they privatise it, they can't afford to go to the counselling.
But I suppose another issue that we have, Anne, and another issue that faces and blights the NHS is just our sort of binge drinking culture. Now, there's you can talk about what quantifies as an alcoholic. Somebody that binge drinks on a Saturday may qualify as an alcoholic, but it happens an awful lot, particularly in young people. Now, how do we decrease the amount of binge drinking that happens in the UK? It might be the price of alcohol.
I think we need to educate kids, teenagers at school.
Do you not think they already know the dangers of alcohol?
People need to go into schools and tell the children how dangerous alcohol is.
But when you're 18, you think you're invincible.
But what it can do to your body, kids need to know that.
Yeah, but they don't think it's going to happen to theirs.
Maybe there needs to be pictures on the bottle of wine, what it can do to your liver and your kidneys. I mean, what else?
There's another thing that they could do. Would you be for that, Kulveer? Instead of not taxing it so everyone would be able to afford it, but much like cigarettes, there would be an image of a liver with cirrhosis or all the other effects that alcohol can cause. If
it helps people understand the impact of what they're doing, yes, let's look at that. But it's all about education. It's
I'm
about
not sure I would enjoy that glass of wine quite the same amount if I'm pouring it out of a bottle with a, degraded liver on it.
But that's what's happened with cigarettes, right? We've seen the impact on it. But I think what we're saying here is it's about targeting the approach. We know there are people who suffer from alcoholism, and we need to deal with that. We know that we have a culture that enjoys excessive drinking. Now, some might say that's a Northern European culture. I think Yasmin mentioned Southern, European countries take alcohol, enjoy alcohol in a different way. We're not going to completely change the culture of Britain by adding another 50p.
No, but
But what we do want to do is do the educational side of things.
No, it is an important step, but it's also very important that most people do not think they're drinking to excess when they are.
Yeah, and also when you go to the doctors, most people do lie to the doctor about the number of units that they're drinking.
But just on that point, Yasmin, if they don't know, then we have to tell them by putting the price up. That's not going to help them understand.
People don't listen in that way.
I just want to take another quick call. Leslie from Stirlingshire, so you'll be affected by this. What's your thoughts? Are you annoyed by it? Do you think it's a good thing?
No, I think to cut the alcohol, it'd be better for shops like supermarkets, corner shops, wherever, no selling any. Because kids can go in and get a litre of vodka, down in England for £15 a litre. Up here it's about 20. And for me, they can go in there and buy 2 bottles, sit outside somewhere, drink that, and that's harming them more and coming into a pub where it's regulated, when we see them getting too drunk, you can say, I'm sorry, you've had enough, that's you, you're not getting any more. You can't then go to a supermarket before 10 o'clock and buy any more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Leslie, I absolutely do, and it's a really valid suggestion, along with putting warning labels on alcohol. You know, the picture labels that we have on cigarettes is actually just to take alcohol out of supermarkets entirely, so you have to go to a pub or somewhere
and corner shops
to consume it.
Some of the corner shops, there's queues outside.
It would be a similar sort of thing.
Night.
Leslie, thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls on this. If you have been affected by alcoholism, you can go to channel5.com/helpline for support. After the break.